it's an industry where you get so defeated sometimes where you're just like, it's me. It's me. I'm not doing this right and that I'm just not that style or I'm not that put together or I didn't memorize this enough or, you know, I laugh too much or I use my hands too much, like struggled a little bit where I would see other hosts and other people doing things and think like, well, I need to talk less. I need to laugh less. I have to stop using my hands. And I did it. It didn't help me. And so, I felt stuck with that, like, oh, what that's not working either. And I don't know, for some reason, something came across me that said, just be your personality and someone's going to like it. Just be you and somewhere someone's going to like it.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Wow, today's guest is simply great. The fashion world is quite new to me, and it was so brilliant to hear Dawn's perspective and unique insights into the industry. She's such a warm and beautiful soul. She has an incredible story of moving forward, resilience, and my favorites, authenticity and integrity, which radiates throughout the whole conversation. I love how Dawn's been able to identify her roadblocks and ask herself the deep internal questions to change and succeed. It's rare and it's beautiful. She walks the talk and has so many great and insightful stories. I love this chat and I think you will too. Okay, let's get into it. Dawn Russo is an on-air fashion expert, author, lifestylist, consultant, spokesperson, and CEO. For 18 years, Dawn has navigated the dynamic world of fashion, gracing screens on hit shows like CBS Morning, Access Hollywood Live, Meredith Vieira, Extra TV, E! News, Fox, New York, and New York Live as an on-air fashion and beauty expert. She represents brands such as Rebecca Minkoff and Marc Fisher on QVC currently. Her expertise extends beyond TV with features in Vogue Italia, InStyle, Cosmo, Real Simple, Life and Style, and US Weekly. But her journey doesn't stop there. She's also an entrepreneur at heart, leading 3 thriving brands, and you can check them out in the episode notes below. LiveTheGlamour.com, BellaDawn.com, SentielGem.com. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot. And we chat about the worst product Dawn has ever received, integrity and longevity, saying no, starting out in brick and mortar, hustle and letting go, TV segments that don't go ahead, branding and authenticity, asking the deep internal questions, handling rejection and moving forward, plus plenty more.
Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny and Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. You've been in the fashion industry and you've worked with so many different brands and you've received a lot of freebies. What is the worst thing you've ever received?
Oh my God. I could get it. This is recent. I mean, I have a lot, but this just came to the top of my mind because it's so I wish I had it right now to show you. It's a baseball. It's going to not sound as crazy, but it's a baseball cap that has red light technology in it to help grow your hair, which is a cool concept.
I might need that.
Until you see the hat. Because it's not It's not a cool baseball hat. The rim is like it's like I'd say it's like a mix between like a very wide brim like cowboy hat that was put on a baseball cap.
Oh, that's weird.
So it's very weird. I may, if I have time, I may have a picture that I could send you when I
Yes,
tried it on.
that would make my day. Is it one of those
It,
hats? I don't know, go on.
no, just it's it had high hopes. You know, the concept to me sounded wonderful because I thought to myself, wow, you can be doing this, you know, this technology out and about. You're not stuck home, you know, sitting on your feet. A lot of the stuff that I get, I get a lot of beauty products, clothing, shoes, and this one I just was when they sent me the idea of it, I thought, wow, this is interesting. I could go out, put it on, you know, you get your long, glorious hair. I couldn't even wear it at home.
That's my next question. I thought it would be one of those things you wear at home by yourself.
No, I wouldn't even go on like a FaceTime with a friend with it on. Like, that's where we're at with that. So
So what that's hilarious. I have to see this out. So what do you do? Because I would imagine you receive so many things over the years, but when you get something that's less than cool or hip, you're like, oy vey,
yeah,
what do I
and,
do?
and honestly, that's so hard because I'm so on it. Like I don't know if the word honest, but I'm the type of person who I won't share. I tend to have to share a lot of it on social media, on my YouTube, on different platforms. And I really do make it a point to brands that if it's something that I really don't feel comfortable with, I won't share it because I don't want to do that to them. And I also want to be super like authentic and real with my following. And they really
Nice.
do trust that. But at the same time, I rarely take have products sent to me that I don't think I will actually want to share.
Cool.
So I say no to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot. There's a lot of things that I, things that I would be too embarrassed to talk about. Things that are way out of like my wheelhouse that are not, doesn't relate to, you know, fashion, beauty, glamour. I do a lot of more wellness things, so I'm okay with that. But I also got these gummies sent to me one time, and they tasted so bad, like awful. And I tried it and I was like, am I? And they had all these health benefits. They were really supposed to be really great for you. And I thought to myself, like, I can't. Like, I couldn't even fake going in front of someone and saying, like, oh, these gummies are full of all these vitamins and they're really great for you. But, you know, you can't. The taste is horrible. No.
What's that? Is there like a fear when you receive something like, oh no, I can't do anything with
Yes.
this?
Yes. And sometimes it's like a really small brand who's like so proud of their product. And I'm like, oh, like I don't want to destroy their light. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
they're just very happy. And I know what it takes to put the package together and really make it look good and nice, you know, and that whole part to get it in the hands of someone that could potentially do a little, you know, get more people to shop or buy it or see it. So it's like a little heartbreaking at the same time
Mm,
because I don't want to do that to someone. Um, I have been lucky to be in this industry and see a lot of different sides.
yeah.
So having been, I had a physical brick and mortar storefront where I had products, not my own, but I sold products, and I was sending them out to magazines to kind of get exposure. And I know what it took to send stuff out and be like, I hope this, you know, Vogue editor likes this product. And it just, it's like devastating to know something's not going to be featured. And I think that has helped me having that knowledge and having experienced it myself to really fine tune how I pick
Cool.
things, or even for my TV segments, like outside of, you know, that I do a lot of morning shows and I
Nice.
go on and I'm featuring products and you know, brands are like, can we send you these shoes? Can I send you this bag? And there was a belt. It's funny. I'm not like, there was a belt company this was in the very beginning of my career, probably maybe like 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were like, this belt was supposed to be like a see-through belt that you didn't know you were wearing the belt.
See
So
through
you can,
belt.
yeah, so you can cinch your waist, but people wouldn't know that you were doing that. And it would look like you had a smaller waist, but you'd be wearing this. And it just, they sent it. And I said to them, I'll try to see how I can make this make sense
Yeah.
with when I was styling outfits on models for different segments. And I just couldn't do it. There was just no way that it would make, that it looked right. It just didn't look right. It would have looked obvious that I was trying to make something work that didn't.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, for that. So a lot of things have happened that are just interesting.
To say the least. But also, huge congratulations to you because you've been doing this for close to 20 years now, and
Yes.
you don't thrive in the business as long as you're without, you said authenticity, but also integrity. And so, although
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable, and I've listened to everything and read all your stuff, that is such an important, skill set to have. But you actually like, you could be like, oh, I'll just promote this, or I'll just do that, but then you lose your branding and your name. So I find that really,
Completely.
yeah, I think that's so awesome. And it sounds like you've been very aware of that. Was there ever a stage early in the career where you're like, oh, I'll just promote this, I'll just do that? Or have you known from
No,
the get-go?
no, I'm known, and I've had some super big brands reach out that I just couldn't stand behind, especially because I do have um, more of this like wellness side to me where I do care about, what you're putting in your body
Nice.
and
I
things
love that.
that, you're talking about. And so for me, if I don't want to say brand names, but if you
Yeah.
can think of some bigger brands that maybe are lower quality or like their food is not made with the proper ingredients. And, trust me, I would be the the money I could be paid for those type of opportunities would have been amazing. And
Yeah.
I have to say to like family members and stuff a lot throughout my career. I mean, there's been a ton of ups and downs. Um, I struggled. I thought like, I'm saying no to this brand, which doesn't really make sense. But at the same time, am I going to say yes? And then down the road or right now, someone's going to say to me, oh, I thought that were against seed oils and everything they do is with seed oils. Or
Mm.
you talk about more holistic approaches to things, but now you're doing this. Not to say that if I do something that, if I try something or I do something that does have something I wouldn't necessarily as an ingredient that I use, I will always preface it. So if there's a face foundation and girls are saying to me, I want to make my skin look perfectly clear, but there's only this certain type that works, I'll say that. I'll let them know like this is not the best for you and the quality might not be as great, but it is something that works.
I love
So
that. I don't think, or you would know, but I don't know if the listeners would know how rare that is because often you see a big brand, as we won't get into the names, like, oh,
yeah.
so much money, this could lead to this and this and this. But it's a longevity game. This is a personal brand for
Yeah.
you. This is all about trustworthy, and you know that people are going to go to you for like high quality goods and a whole array. And so there's
Yeah.
that like mindset where you also need to live and all of that. And I think it's really
And
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard. And I will say that there's been plenty of times where I thought, I mean, my parents probably know best how many times I just said, I'm over it. I'm quitting. I'm done. I can't do this. Like in that absolute worst down part of my life, crying, saying that's it. And I'll give you a little story that I got through when I was closing my boutique and moving into more of the TV stuff. I was so upset because that was my dream. This boutique was like a dream come true. I was very young when I opened it. And I was sitting with my dad crying and tears coming down. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. This is too much. This is too much. Nothing's working for me. Nothing's coming together. I'm losing money. I'm living at home. I can't, all these things. And he sat down and he said to me, it's okay. You could quit or you can leave or you can decide not to do something. But
Nice.
if it's not going to make you happy, then think about that. He said, because sometimes the struggle is part of it.
Wow.
And what he said to me, and now my dad's, he's an entrepreneur, he's a business owner, so he has a lot of good knowledge. And he just sat there and he made me think, and I'm crying. And he's like, but it's up to you. You're not wrong with whatever decision you make. If you feel like you're totally going to move from one thing to the next and you're going to be happy and you're going to feel good about it, then do that. If you're going to stay in this and it's going to be a little bit of struggle, but you know that you're gonna feel more content, then stay with this. And this, hearing
That's
that was
amazing.
like I had to make my own decision, and I couldn't put it on anybody else. I couldn't blame anything. It was really up to me to say, like, well, what do I want? Do I want to feel like I'm giving up, or do I want to feel like I'm settling? What is it, you know? So that's the journey has
Unbelievable.
been.
I love your dad. That is fantastic advice. And especially seeing his daughter cry, he could like want to inverted commas protect her, but he empowered you to make the decision.
He
That
did.
is so unbelievable. I can see you nodding. Okay, I love that. That's brilliant. And obviously it empowered you to make the decisions that we see today, which has worked out for you. And also it's really awesome that you talk about this because every single person I've had on the podcast, there's always one moment or 100 moments where like I can't do this anymore. I want to give up. But asking yourself the deep questions, is this actually for me, is so important. Because if you don't ask those internal questions, then you're kind of just moving, like where you going. So I feel
Right. Yeah, you do. And I feel like they're hard. Any decision you make is going to be a hard one. And of course, you're always going to look back and say to yourself, was that the right thing? I still to this day, because I was in college and I didn't realize I was manifesting. I didn't realize I was actually visualizing something, but I had this book, still have it, in detail of what the boutique was going to look like, every
oh,
single detail, everything. And I would sit in my classes and I went to school for business management, and I was writing every detail, like, this is the clothing, this is the style, it's going to look like this is how you're going to walk in and it was just making me happy to write this down. Never really, when you're younger, I was, early 20s, 18 to 22 or whatever,
yeah.
you have a lot less holding you back. You have a lot less of the world, like, things that can show you how it can't work. And you have more of this, like, well, I could do anything
Yeah.
thinking. So I just sat there and I wrote everything down, and I was writing it, and just, this is what I want to happen. I got
That's
out of college. I worked for my dad a little bit, and at 24, I opened the boutique. So I walked in opened this boutique. I was living at home. That's how I was affording to do a lot of it. And it was a dream come true. So to make a decision to close those doors on a dream that I essentially manifested was so hard. It was so hard because I was like, I'm closing this door, but at the same time, not realizing like the pivot that I was making
mm.
was going to open, this whole world now that's just incredible.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, go on. I have
no,
2,000
no, it's just,
questions. No, I think it's so exciting. And, you touched upon, okay, I've written down like 20 points, but you touched upon such an amazing concept where whether people believe in manifesting or not, I'm a massive proponent of when you when you come down to detail, you are creating that life for you. So when you're writing in your book exactly what you want at a subconscious level, you're working towards it. Because if you're not clear, do you want it to be boutique? Do you want it to be the shopping center? Do you want it to be a pop art? You're not being that clear, and you kind of the clearer you are, the better you are. You better you are served to achieve that goal. And so you are being so specific and creating this, and that's so amazing. So do you look back at that and go, look what I could create just through like my mind and what I wanted? Doesn't that like empower you to realize that you can achieve so much more as well?
it does. And I've had to always keep that focus because as you have, so many things that take you down, you feel like, wow, I did that. But then, now it's 20 years later, and I've had a lot of things that made me feel like this is never going to work. I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to be successful. Things are not going to happen for me. And so it, a lot of times after that felt harder. Like I felt like I couldn't get back in that groove of like, well, how did I even do that? Or like, what do I even want? What do I want to write in this book? Like there would be so many times where blanks would just come up where I just would sit down and be like, well, do I want this? Or is that just, something I saw somebody else do? Or so
Uh,
it's funny because I was so focused, and I think that you have to figure out how to get back to whatever that focus is. And as much as I love social media, at that time it didn't exist.
Oh
This was
yeah.
2000. My boutique was 2004 that I opened, so it's very early 2000s. I didn't have anything pulling me different ways, and now, and I love it. I'm a big proponent of social media, but at the same time, I think it's affected me in being a little more like almost too much information and like too much to see,
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh, well, I can do this or I can do that. And
Pulls
there's
you in
this
so many
opportunity.
different
And yes,
directions.
when before all I knew was I love fashion. I have always wanted to be in, a fashion closet in this world. And I'm going to open a boutique and it's going to look like a bedroom and it's going to feel, and it was so easy to create that dream.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, I mean, I'm here and I'm doing TV, but there's like, well, do I want my own TV show? Do I want to keep doing these morning? There's a lot more, it's a little bit more difficult to sit down and say like, okay, this is exactly in detail what I want. I've gotten better at it, but I
Yeah.
think there's been maybe like the last few years of social media that really were like, oh, no,
Yeah, no,
that's cool. That's cool. That's different.
I know that there's many pros and cons with social media, but also
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
you're saying is there's so much things happening. So you feel you need to be in this area. Oh, but I need to be in this area. And you're like, where does it end? I don't have the answer for that, but I feel like by asking these deep internal questions, it's still, even if you go backwards, you don't actually go backwards because you're learning from those, I wouldn't say mistakes, but you're learning what doesn't work. So it pushes you in the right direction. And you wouldn't be able to do this for, I think it's close to 20 years
Yeah.
if you weren't like honest with yourself, especially as well.
It's true. It's so true. I think that's what's helped me the most is the honesty with myself and, saying, yeah, that sounds like a really great opportunity, but I don't think it's something that I want to do, or I don't think that's me, or, I don't really feel in that. There's been times when New York Fashion Week is very big, and
Yeah.
I've had a lot of I get to go to New York Fashion Week and do things there.
Cool.
And I had some opportunities to actually style shows, like go and be a fashion stylist. This is, a few years ago, more than a few years, probably 10 years ago. And I did one and I didn't like it. And I was like, oh, how could I not like this? This is like a dream. This is where anybody would wish to have someone come to them and say, can you style my show? Here's models. Here's a runway. This is going to be, part of New York Fashion Week. It's a huge opportunity. And I was like, it's awful. Like this, I don't like it. I don't like any part of it. I don't like it felt hectic. It felt overwhelming. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to give up this opportunity. I'm going to give this opportunity up. And I'm, not going to get seen by other designers then. I'm not, I may not have more New York Fashion Week opportunities and different things like that. I'm going to say no to that. It's so hard, but I just knew that it didn't feel good. I didn't like it. And it is a part of the fashion industry that so many girls would dream of. So it's really hard to have something that is in so many people's dreams and have it in front of you and you're not taking it. Like, is that crazy?
And I think it's really, as we said, really important to, ask yourself those questions, but also to realize that, so many people want to do that. Or do they actually want to do it? It sounds so amazing on paper, but realizing it's not in alignment for you. That's so hard because sometimes we feel, and after speaking to close to 300 people, we feel we need to do something. But then when we go against our gut or intuition, it never works out. And this is sort of what you're saying, not to the high degree, but I always thought I wanted to do stand-up comedy. And I did try it, and at this stage, it's not for me. But I shifted my mindset or my view on it and shifted into writing, so screenwriting. And so to me, it's very similar, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. But I always thought it was comedy. But then I made that shift to writing, and it's a lot easier. But I thought I was like a failure, or why am I not doing this? Because I always wanted to do stand up. And so I feel like it's very similar with you, that each time that you said no, you just kind of pivoted or moved so that it's in alignment with you. Yeah.
Completely. And it's not always, I think anybody that looks from the outside, and we all do it, like we all look from the outside and see things or think that we want things and we see it and we're like, I need to do that, or I would love that, or that's amazing, or you're lucky, or, all these different things. um, you sort of have to step back and say, like, I don't like to use the word luck, but like, you don't know the whole picture, you
Yes.
know? So you see things and it's like, sort of like the QVC stuff that I do. I mean, there's so much behind it, and people are like, "Oh," I'm always like, when anyone says to me, "Oh, you're so lucky," I'm like, "Well, first of all, it's many many years."
Yep.
So the luck came after a lot of steps, a lot of challenges. I would never say that like I'm not so grateful for all of it,
Nice.
but know what's behind it and know what comes with it and know, even from the time when I had a boutique and I was there 24/7 and I missed family parties, I didn't take trips, my friends were out partying and I was like, oh no, I have to open a boutique on Black Friday, I can't go out Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
all these different things. I You don't see that part. You see like, oh, that's so cool, she's working in a boutique, or you're going on these TV shows and that's so amazing, but I'm also not sleeping at night and putting suitcases of clothing together and getting a phone call from a model saying, sorry, I'm not going to make it onto the show tomorrow. And what do I do now? The show doesn't care that you don't have a model. They want you to show up with 3 models dressed, ready to go, and be there at 5 a.m. So there's parts of it that look so glamorous.
Yep.
I would never discourage anybody from it. I would say, as long as you're the type of person to just, I've always said this, just keep going in your career. Even if you have to pivot, you have to change, but just keep going. That's all that it is just keep going.
Brilliant advice. And also you how do I say this? You're literally like what the podcast stands for, about pivoting and
Oh,
changing and moving in different directions when things we feel aren't working for us, and the mindset change. I love that. I've written down 100 points. Oh, actually, back to the your boutique shop.
yeah.
So this is your dream. You come out of college, you work on this. As you said, you give up, you sacrifice a lot of stuff. What did it look like emotionally building yourself back up after that experience? Because I know you transitioned into TV, but I'm sure it would have been very challenging at that time.
Very challenging. The hardest part was, um, when I made the decision, when I had to tell the landlord that I would be done paying rent, and I had like the actual, like, concrete, it's really happening decisions, was like, wow, I'm making these, like, this is a choice that I'm making. It's not just like there's no one out. You're not going to your parents and saying, what should I do? You're not, someone else isn't deciding it for you. You're making a decision to do something. And I remember that decision. And I remember, so I had like a big window that looked out to this little stream, and there was a park across the street. And I sat there and I just wrote it all down. I just wrote every feeling, everything emotional, everything that was happening. I was crying. I was excited for what was to come. I knew there was gonna, I was closing my boutique, but I had some of this TV stuff happening, and it was budding. It was just starting to happen.
Nice.
I was getting featured in magazines. I had the boutique, I had TV stuff happening. So I had some stuff that was like really exciting and really something I was looking forward to. And I knew, okay, well, this is going to allow me more time, and I'm going to stop doing this and not have to be here every day, but I get to wait, go and do these morning shows, or I could be featured in more magazines. I could go travel to, different places. I was, when I started doing a lot of TV, I was in Chicago, I was in LA, I was in
Wow.
Texas, I was in Miami. I was doing, media tours all over. So there was a great opportunity that way, but it it hurt so much to, and I have a very good ending. I'll kind
Oh,
of
this is
tie it in
great.
here, but I was sad and emotional, and I closing the door on the actual day, just like closing the door and really leaving, was so hard. And it was like, am I making the worst decision? Am I going to regret this forever? Am I going to be the person who drives past here and is sad, is like, why did I do that? Or why didn't I try to do it all? Because there was a part of me that was like, oh, you could figure this out. You can have the boutique and still do all. And
Yeah.
that's very for me, it was very unrealistic to try to do that. And I wouldn't have been able to put the time in either. Like, I would never have given the attention to both enough.
Yeah.
So both would have sacrificed.
Yep.
The boutique wouldn't have gotten what it needed. And then the TV and the stuff that I was growing into would have also not gotten the attention that it needed. So basically, I would have been like half of myself for each of them, which wouldn't have done. I probably both would have ended up failing in the long run.
Well, it's very brave of you to like, which one do you need to shoot?
Yeah,
which is a horrible analogy.
But what's very cool is, and this is, I wouldn't have known this was going to happen until I just kept going in my career. I kept going. About a year and a half ago, and now this is, I'm doing all TV stuff. I'm doing all this media, I'm working with brands, all the things, all the great things. A local spa that had a boutique in it that I had been going to for my hair, for different things for a long time. The owner reached out to me and said, I love everything that you do. And, would you want to, buy some, you wouldn't have to work in the boutique, but would you want to be the buyer and the curator of the boutique? We would just need you to buy the products and come in like once a week and just curate them to make everything look nice in the boutique. I was like, oh my gosh, the universe.
Yeah.
What, 16, 17 years later, just handed me back my boutique in the best way possible.
That is amazing. And also, it worked in a way, I assume, you correct me if I'm wrong, in a way that works better for you because it's not as much time, but you're still putting your energy. Yeah, you're smart. I love these stories. Works perfectly with your schedule so you can work in other areas as well. Well done, Dawn. Well done.
I could have never, thank you. I could have never planned that. I had to trust. I had to just trust my journey in the universe, the path that I was on, and just, like I said, keep going. Because I could have never said, well, I'm going to figure out a way to have a boutique. I couldn't. And it landed in my hands, and it's been amazing. I still get to do all the stuff I do. He's an awesome person to work for. The people, it's grown. The boutique there is growing immensely, more than my boutique ever did. And I'm like, this is insane.
Good for you. And also, going back to manifesting, creating your dream. You wouldn't have known, even though you created exactly what you needed then, but learning from those experiences, and also, a lot of years have passed in between what you've liked and what you haven't liked. And now this has happened to you. That only comes through trial and error and actually 100%. Working in it. And so I think that's a great lesson, especially for me, that, I view the boutique as a massive success. And then, learning from that, and now you've got this opportunity plus the other ones. That's such a good lesson for everyone. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
I also have many more questions on this. And I want to know where your oomph came from, because when you're first doing a boutique, and I didn't know a lot about this, but I heard you talk about this. You're not only going to stores to promote some of the stuff, or you're asking if they can sell stuff, and you're probably getting rejected all the time. Was that hard? Was that hard for you, or you just knew this is what I need to do? How did you cope with that?
So it's funny because sometimes I miss the person I was then, because I was so determined that none of it bothered me. I go back, I save some of the emails that I used to send, and I go back to the emails that I would write to people. Now I'm like a 23, 24-year-old, and they're the most basic emails asking if I could sell their product. And I read them and I'm like, oh my God, I spend a half of a day now trying to put an email together, for a request for something that sounds good, looks good, makes me sound perfect, all the elements that you think you need. And then I was writing these emails that were like, hi, can I sell your product in a boutique that you never heard of that's, in New Jersey? So it's just funny, but there was definitely a plenty of no, thank you. No, we're not interested. There was a showroom. So showrooms you go to, and they represent a lot of fashion brands in one. So they represent maybe, let's say 10 or 15 fashion brands. So I was just doing my research, and I came across one of these showrooms, and I didn't know it was like a gigantic showroom that mostly sold to like major department stores and very high-end boutiques. I don't know if I didn't know or if I didn't really pay attention, but
Yeah.
I reached out and I was like, can I sell these brands? And they were like, wrote back to me like, basically, what are you even saying? Don't you know who we are? Like, okay. I guess not, I guess not. And I just
Yeah.
let it, I was able to let it go. I mean, what, now I say that, I think then I probably got, I took it in internally a lot of stuff. Like I was the
Yeah.
type of person who took it internally and just, I made it okay on the outside, but felt affected on the inside. Um, I reached out. So in the very beginning, I wanted to go to a lot of New York Fashion Week shows because I knew that was a good place to get in. This is way before I got the opportunity to style, and probably why that was so dramatic for me saying no to New York Fashion Week when in my earlier years I was begging to just go to the shows.
Mm.
Um,
That's great growth. I just want to reiterate.
yeah.
Great growth.
Thank you. But I was reaching out to the fashion big brands, like, can I attend your fashion? Now I knew nothing about attending a New York Fashion Week show. I knew nothing. Can I attend your New York Fashion Week show? And I'm going to tell you too, there's one that basically just said, this is the completely inappropriate way to request access to one of the shows. And then another one, and I'm going to tell you the brand's name because when I look now at how open this brand was and what I did that was totally wrong, or I didn't know it was wrong, but now
Yeah.
I know that I would never, etiquette wise, never do this. It was Betsy Johnson, and it was one of the first shows. She was like, I don't know if she does so much anymore, but she was very big in the early 2000s. And I couldn't believe they said yes to access to their show for a fall New York Fashion Week. And they said yes. She's amazing. Going to New York Fashion,
Yeah.
one of the first ones. So I don't know what it was about me, and I don't feel like I'm that bold of a person. But I said to my sister and a very good friend of mine, do you want to go to the Betsy Johnson fashion show with me? And I brought them with me, not knowing that you can't just bring people to fashion shows.
That's unbelievable. So, so
So I walk up to the line. They have their PR person there that has like a clipboard, very serious,
Yep.
your name. And my name was on there, but not the two other names. And I was like, well, they're my guests. We're going to just want to see the
crew.
show. And I think I was so innocently saying it, not in a way.
No,
I'm
no
never,
ego.
it doesn't exist. And I just was like, oh, I thought we had a guest. And so I was ready to turn around and leave because I was almost like embarrassed that I
Yeah.
would do that. And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. I misunderstood. And the PR people were actually like, it's no problem. We can seat them. And I was shocked because
Wow.
that would never happen. And then anybody knows in the industry, that's like very difficult and very unusual. So, yeah.
You had a dream and a goal and you went with it
I
and
guess so.
it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
That I
Pretty wild.
I like that. I like the
Yeah.
confidence as well. Even if naivety, it was confidence because you're pursuing it.
Exactly.
So on the rejection side, so you
Mm,
said when you were younger you dealt with it
yeah.
better. I would argue that you've dealt with it better now. Did you have to make any changes? Because everyone is, but you're still getting rejected so many times. Were there any shifts
Yeah.
you had to make?
I did. I think with rejection, I almost was, it's so funny because there's all these things that I do now that I know, you know, manifesting and all that I know the terms, I know what it means. I didn't
Yeah,
know then
labels.
any of
Yeah.
it. And so I was doing affirmations, not realizing I was doing affirmations and saying to myself, even though, you know, this didn't work out, other opportunities are going to come. Even like speaking this to myself to give myself like the okay, because I was so upset I was rejected from, I mean, there were big TV shows that they were like, no, I did so many auditions to be hosts for TV shows because that's what I thought for a little while I wanted to
Mm.
be. And I would go and, I'd go on 2 or 3 auditions for the same one and be so confident that it was going to happen. And then, no, sorry. And you know how many times I've gotten the like, no, it just is not going to work out. No, that's just not going to work out. And you get, it's an industry where you get so defeated sometimes where you're just like, it's me. It's me. I'm not doing this right. And that I'm just not that style, or I'm not that put together, or I didn't memorize this enough, or, I laugh too much, or I use my hands too much, like
all the human things.
The media world is very much. And so struggled a little bit where I would see other hosts and other people doing things and think like, well, I need to talk less. I need to laugh less. I have to stop using my hands. And I did it. It didn't help me. And so, I felt stuck with that. Like, oh, what? That's not working either. And I don't know, for some reason, something came across me that said, just be your personality and someone's going to like it. Just be you, and somewhere someone's going to like it. I don't know how I got to that place. I think it was probably unconsciously doing affirmations, just, saying this stuff to myself, not realizing I was doing that.
Like
and
the positive to the negative.
Reinforcement. Yeah. I just was doing that to make myself feel better so I didn't cry every night. Like I'm talking to myself, just saying like, it's okay. You're going to get through this. Things are always going to work out for you. Everything is always going to work out. And I was saying that to myself just to make myself feel like I didn't want to cry. So
I love that. It's so powerful. I was just
trying to find a way not to cry, not realizing that it also subconsciously probably got me. Yeah.
Definitely.
Next place. So
once again, many points. And, I've seen a lot of your stuff being on TV, and you've always come across as quite as confident and authentic.
That's very nice.
Well, it seems like you're just a natural as well. But in this TV world, we feel we have to be this person. So many actors say, I need to emulate that person. And it's, it can be important to pick up a few things, but not at the expense of ourselves. So I think it's really cool that you are looking at different ways to be, them not necessarily working out, then realizing that you as Dawn is going to succeed more than pretending to be someone else. That's a great realization.
It took me a long time to get there and to be okay with it. But I said to myself, you know what? I just have to be, someone's going to like my personality that I am. And someone's going to be okay that I may be laughing a little bit more, and I don't, because that's just, I'm more naturally like that. And when I try to be, let's just say scripted, like you're going to go on TV and you're going to say this and you're going to say what this product is and that's all you're going to say. There's plenty of people that do that amazing. I have friends that are in the industry and I admire them so much for being so consistent with how they come across, and that they know, every detail to the product, and they can give you very specific points. Whereas I'm more of the, let's talk about this because it's so much fun to use, let's talk about this because how it's going to be part of your day to day. I had to get okay with that with myself in order to do it. And I had to also let producers and the people I was working with know, hey, listen, if you're looking for something, this took confidence to be able to maybe get rejected, that someone's going to say no to you because you're saying this. But I said, I'm going to tell you right now that if you're hiring me, or like if I'm bringing a product on TV and you're expecting me to be very buttoned up and quiet and say it in this way, I'm not the right person for you. I'm not the person that's going to do it that way. It's just not how I'm going to come across. But if and some brands and some producers, they want that, they want that approach. But then some of them, as they saw me being myself, realized like, wow, okay, so she can get the point across, but still has a personality of her own that goes with it.
Yeah, that's crucial, because often there's like a box and it's like our job to show people, no, we can still thrive out of this box.
Yes.
But that is so hard because it takes so much confidence. It takes a lot of, trial and error. But for you to actually be able to either vocalize and say, hey, this is what I'm about, that is so amazing. And I think, as we've said, going back to your like key values of authenticity and trust. And, you know, I think that's so important, and people can see that from you and they know what you can expect, because there's nothing worse when you see certain people in media or whatever and you don't know what they're going to say on the day. They just flip flop to whatever, you know. I hate that. Authenticity and integrity are
Yeah,
two of my most favorite
me
traits. And
too.
yeah, good on you. I know you said it's a bit of a journey, but it's a massive journey for everyone to get there. But most people don't get there because they feel they have to be someone else. And so, especially
Yeah.
on TV, as we said, back with all the brand stuff, you might feel, oh, I'm never going to get on TV again, or this is a big spot. I'll do what the producers say. They know best, but you're still being you. I love it. Tell me more. I know I keep on bringing it back, but back to the
Yeah.
authenticity. I love it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. And I I hope I'm not sounding like, oh, everything is gonna work. Like, I'm not. I do believe everything works out, but at the same time, you have to be able to kind of move with things. You have to
Yeah.
flow and be okay with it. And my biggest worry when I was saying like, okay, well, this is my personality, and I can't change it. Like, I'm not the type of person who's gonna be able to suddenly turn it off and just be, go. And I have some TV segments where I tried, and anyone watching them would be like, oh wow, that's not Dawn. She is being different on TV. So I did try it.
Yeah, that's part of
And
life.
you have to.
Yeah.
And I got worried that too many brands were going to say. So I had this weird thing that I thought like they like me and then they don't like me. Like I had this thing where I was like, oh, they like me, they want to work with me, and then I would work with them once or twice, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, actually, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. And I always felt like that was going to happen. I always had this feeling of like, oh, it's going to be so great and I'm going to get this opportunity, and then something's going to happen that's going to take the opportunity away from me.
Yeah.
And I had that thinking, and I think because it happened to me a lot, and so I struggled with that. And just probably recently, as I was doing more work with QVC, one of the brands that I work with, Rebecca Minkoff, she's a handbag designer. She's all over.
My
Um,
wife wanted me to ask you questions about that brand.
so when they reached out to me, I couldn't. I was like, wait, they're reaching out to me.
Nice.
And now I've been in this career for a long time. Like I shouldn't be. I wouldn't say like shouldn't be surprised, but I just was like,
Unexpected positive opportunity.
Very, very. And they reached out and they sent an email and they said, can you send an audition tape? Can you record yourself talking, as if you're on QVC? And I'm like, so now I'm the type of person who gets stuck where I want things to be so good that I almost delay them too long, where I'm like, I'm just going to wait till everything's perfect. I'm going to wait till this. And I push things I do it with a lot of, I'm getting better, but I do it with a lot of things. Yes. And until you almost lose the opportunity.
Yep.
And it's happened. And so I sat down because I was like, oh my God, I need a better camera. I need better lighting. I can't, I watched a ton of videos and I'm like doing all this stuff. And this one day I'm like, that's it. I'm going to record it. I was in my bedroom, found the good lighting with the light. I set everything up.
Nice.
I had a handbag that wasn't, I don't even think it was a Rebecca Minkoff handbag. I was worried about that. I was like, should I go to the store? Should I go buy one? I didn't have it on hand. I had one, but it was like in storage. And I said, but no, you can't. You're going to procrastinate. You're going to put this off and you're not going to do it because you're going to wait to get that bag and all this. I just sat down, pressed record, and ran with it and did it. Put the email together. I sent it over. And I was like, oh no. I didn't hear from them for weeks. And I'm like, all right, that was fair. And I'm not a good check-in person because I have this thing where I'm like, I'm bothering you. And I know it's not, but I just always feel like if I check in and be like, hey, no, and it sounds funny to say, but it's like, hey, just wanted to see if you received it could be a very simple email saying, did you receive the video?
I'm the same.
I just get very like, I don't want to annoy you.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to check in. So I didn't check in or anything. And I think it was maybe like 2 months later, I get a email saying, "Can I hop on like a conference call?" And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Had you forgotten about it at that time, or were you still
I
thinking?
did. I did, and I got another opportunity with Marc Fisher shoes, another shoe brand, which was amazing. I'm still working with them,
Nice.
and I took that opportunity. I met with them. It moved really fast with them. Everything kind of like was quick. Said yes. I took the opportunity, and I started doing it. So I started going on air as their expert, and it went great. And so when they called me back, I was like, oh no, like now what do I do? Because can I even go back on air? With another brand, there was like some
Ah,
conflict
yeah,
if you're an expert for too many. Luckily, it was shoes and handbags. There were different categories,
nice.
but they reached out and they said, "Can you hop on a conference call?" This is a, I said yes without worrying about that stuff, like thinking ahead and saying no because I'm already working with a brand. I just said
Just
yes.
did it. Yeah.
I just did it. I said yes. So I hop on a phone call. Then it starts to move really fast. Now it's like I'm meeting VP, I'm meeting this person, I'm meeting that person. I have to go
Cool.
to the city to meet their team. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening. We're doing this. Um, and then I had to say to them, I am working with this other brand. Are you going to be okay with it? They said yes, as long as that brand is okay with it, and as long as QVC was okay with it.
Oh
So
wow.
now I have to reach out all the stuff that I feel so awkward doing.
Ah,
Like
yeah,
I put in a
gotcha.
position
Yeah,
to
like
do all this stuff that's like so uncomfortable. I'm like, hi, I
yeah.
want to know if this is okay. So I reach out to them, like they're fine with it as long as it's not the same category. QVC, all the management people got involved, ended up all working, and now it's almost 2 years, and I'm working with two amazing brands,
Oh,
and like I get to feature them on TV.
that
So
is amazing, and I also love because I resonate. I'm sure many people will. You're like, oh, like I don't, because I
yeah,
send so many emails. Oh, I don't want to
yeah,
interrupt them. What are they doing? And then it sounds like both of them are like, yeah, that's completely fine. And then you're like,
right,
after all the stress that we put in,
yes,
and it ends up working out well.
it's
I
fine.
know.
Yeah, that's me all the time. I mean, you would think I would have learned by now that it's okay, but for some reason, I just still am like, I don't want
No,
to
I
bother
know that.
anyone.
But I think it shows like you're a
So,
good person, and you've got like high integrity, and you just you want
yeah,
everything to go well, and you want to have
yeah,
trust. I get that. Isn't that crazy? And also I want to
wild.
talk about your TV career as well, because you're talking about the boutique, the dream, and you're transitioning to TV. You think the dream's over, but then another dream's
Mhm.
happening, and you've learned so much from the boutique stuff which you've applied in your career since.
Yeah.
What was it like the first time you're on TV? Because I'm sure there would have been so many emotions running loose.
It was wild. The very, very, very first segment I got, I still had my boutique, and that's what helped me realize I liked that industry. It was a part of the industry I didn't really know about.
Yeah.
And I was selling a product in my boutique that they wanted to feature on a morning on Fox Good Day New York. It was a big show, it was their morning show. And I got the phone call, and they left a voicemail. And I didn't hear the voicemail for like 4 hours. And when I'm listening, I was still living at home. I listened to the voicemail. Hi, it's Fox 5 producer. We know that you carry this brand. Can we do a feature on it in the next like 2 days? And we want to come to you, which is very unusual. Most of the time they want
Yeah.
you to come into studio. You go to the studio, and they said they would come to me, and I was like, oh my God, I got to make this work. Like
Yeah.
I have to make it work. And it's so funny. I said yes. And I think that's a point to do. Say yes before you know if you can do it. Just always say yes
Just,
and you'll figure it out. Like you will
yeah.
figure it out.
The
Just say
brain
yes.
works
And
so quickly under stress
it
sometimes, it'll
does.
just do it
It
for
does.
us.
It does. And now I'm like, wow. So I said yes. They schedule it. I'm like, where are we shooting this to make it look, like good? With my boutique was on like a busy road, and I had just started setting it up. It was relatively new when I wasn't in there very long um, when this TV opportunity came up. And so I don't know why I did this. I said, can we film at my parents' house?
I was just.
We filmed at my parents' house in their living room. Now, everybody's excited, right? Because we're filming this product.
I
I
could
have to get
imagine.
models. It's like I'm young. It's a big deal. We're Italian, so everything is like bigger. Everybody needs like family
The
needs
whole
everything.
family. Yep,
Yeah.
everyone.
And when I compare it now to TV, it's insane. So they, I say yes. They come. I set up the whole living room. There's all this stuff. Um, Now I'm thinking like they're gonna come with all these people. It's gonna be a big crew. Everybody's gonna come in. There's gonna be camera. Like whole
Yeah.
setup. It was just the producer and one camera guy, like just the girl producer and one camera guy.
Yep.
My family like got food catered.
No way.
Catered. I have grandparents waiting in the background to
Sounds
watch.
like you got like the whole suburb, the whole town there.
I had everybody there, and the producer walks in and is like, "What's going on?" Like completely confused. And I'm like, I'm ready to do the segment. And I'm like, oh, these are my models. My family came if they wanted to see something. If you want, we thought that there may be some people from your crew, so we wanted to make sure there was food for everybody to eat. Now, a normal TV segment, it's literally like this. They come, they shoot, and I say in a half hour it's done. Like it's not a process. It's pretty fast,
Yep.
knowing it now. But that was my very first one. I did it so confidently without knowing, and I went in so blind and knew nothing. It all worked out.
Exactly.
I still have it on my YouTube channel. It's so embarrassing to watch. It's like awful.
I think that's amazing, and also, sorry for interjecting. Also,
Yeah,
that
no.
green eyes, that enthusiasm, the producer would have
Yeah.
seen as well, and people would have felt that. I know that everyone's there, but that's so cute. And also from the producer point of view, I'm sure they would have been like, "Oh, this is like means a lot," and like,
They
yeah,
did. And honestly they did appreciate it, and it's so funny, like just thinking back now, and that happened, and then there was actually a few years that went by where I didn't, but that bug was like in me. I loved it. I loved every part of it. I loved talking about a product, and the product that I talked about, it was selling like crazy. So I was getting these phone calls all day. Now I didn't have an e-commerce website set up for my boutique. I only had just a
yeah,
basic website because at the time it wasn't a thing. And so I'm getting phone calls and emails. Can I order this? Can I order this? All these, and now I'm calling the company, and the company's like, I explained to them what happened, and it was fantastic, but I really wasn't prepared in
yeah.
any way to be selling so many. Those were the days when TV sold stuff. You put something on TV,
Oh,
and now,
yeah.
now you put some. Now I'm like, is somebody going to see this? you know,
So do you, because TV is being the dream. Have you
different.
noticed that big, well,
I can
potentially?
tell you, yeah, I can tell you. I used to go on TV and work and do like magazine editorials talking about products. And I knew whatever I brought on TV, it was what the brands would call me and say, like, as soon as you talked about that, this sold. As soon as you talked about that, this sold. It would be, I mean, it was fantastic. It was the
Yeah.
greatest place to be on. It was really truly before you would it now everyone's so used to clicking through social media and buying something so fast that TV is like slow.
Yeah.
It became like this very slow space to be on. I tell brands now, because I still do a lot of morning shows, or producers, I'm like, you gotta have a QR code that people could scan on the TV for the product, because that would be what would
That's
get it sold
genius.
fast.
Is that common?
Yeah,
I
no
never.
one's done it yet. No, I keep saying it. I'm like, I don't even think it's. I just say it because to me it would make the most sense
Yeah.
that if you're talking about, like, as you're talking about products, if they put like, oh, here's this, handbag, and then they put the QR code, people could just do it really fast.
I
It hasn't happened, but it would be great.
I think that's going to happen
I
very
mean,
quickly. That is such a good
let's
idea.
hope, right? Yeah, so we get stuff sold fast.
Isn't that
But
great? Oh, sorry. No, what were you saying?
yeah, no, that has been the biggest problem with, now people just use TV for exposure
Yeah.
more than actually selling. It's still great for having the exposure for their brand, but it doesn't sell the product, I would say.
That's so crazy, like given, TV being the gold mine at the time, and you would have seen so many different trends
Oh,
and being able to adapt and shift, which would be
yeah.
quite daunting. And I'm sure at times like,
Yeah.
oh, another one, what am I going to do? Then you might feel you're late. Like TikTok, some people join at the start and they're killed it, and then
Yeah.
people join much later and it's a bit more of a slower build and all
Oh
these
yeah,
things. Yeah.
totally. I really wish social media existed when I first started because I can't even imagine what I would have. I love it's funny because I have a good relationship with social media and I do like posting and I am big on getting on the like trying new apps. So like I've probably through the years have tried anytime like a new app came on, I have tried it. I never put the time into it the way I probably should have to grow it that way. I think that's where for me it was never like the focus,
Same
but
as
I do
me.
like it and
Yeah.
I do appreciate them, you using them. But I could only imagine at the time if social media existed and I was doing all this stuff, how much more would sell because you'd be like, oh, this is going to be on TV,
Yeah.
you'd be able to talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit more. Now it's like it's so saturated and people can get things everywhere so fast that they're not saying like, let me turn the TV on and watch this to see it. So
I know. It's a
it's
crazy
different.
journey, from having a whole family over and now the shifts that you've
It's
made.
and now it's like I'm going, almost all the TV segments, I take myself there. I drive there, I show up, I film it, and I'm done. If I do on location, it's like a few times they've come to my home now when they want to talk about, like when they want to do something more like in a home kind of look.
Mm.
And it's just me. And they walk in and they film and they leave in 15, 20 minutes. It's the fastest thing ever. So it's funny to look back at that. Like we made this whole big, huge event out of being on a TV show. And now, I film fast.
It's still very exciting, and you should be very proud of yourself.
It
And
is.
we were
Thank you.
speaking off air, and I don't want to pull back the curtain
Yeah.
too much, unless if you want to.
No, go
But
for
like,
it. Go for it.
what goes into like being on a TV show? And you mentioned, I'm just going to say a few buzzwords, and then you can say the whole thing. That you can wait up to 6 hours before you can actually be on TV. It's a 2 hour drive for you. You don't know if it's going to go on. Tell everyone. I think this is crazy.
I feel like I could tell a story. I feel like I could talk forever about it because I have so many stories. The 6 hours is very interesting. So that is related more to QVC. So how it works, and I don't think a lot of people know this, and it's a very interesting dynamic. So we get booked. You get booked for a show, for a segment of their show, and they'll say, okay, we're going to have your product featured on Tuesday between the 6 and 10 p.m. hour. So like a 2 or 3 hour window you could be on. You can be going on at 6 p.m. or I could be the last. I could be going on at 10 p.m.
Wow.
So you don't know what time slot you're going on. And now keep in mind, you can't show up to the studio any sooner than an hour before you go on. So you can't go to the studio and say, well, maybe I'll be on at 6. And even if I'm on at 10, I'll be there ahead of time and I'll just wait. You can't do that. If you're on at 10, the earliest you can show up go into the studio is 9 p.m.
Wow.
You don't find out your exact time. So now I get the email that I'm going to be on. You're going to be on Tuesday between 6 and 10 p.m. Okay. On the day of the show, you have to call in to find your time slot. Your time slot is now between that 6 and 10 p.m. show, you're going to be on at 8:15. So now you have to calculate, for me, I have to calculate back. 8:15 means I have to get to the studio at 7:15. It's a 2-hour drive. So I have to leave my house at 5:15 or 5 o'clock ish, as long as there's no traffic, to get to the studio by 7:15
Yeah.
to go on at 8:15. So your whole day is like very unknown. It's very hard to make any plans or to do other jobs or to do, which almost happened with this pretty much with coming on and talking to you. I got booked after we booked this, and they said, oh, your window's 6 to 9. And I said, 6 to 9, please go on. And so I said, I can't even find out my time. And then I'm like, anytime this happens, I feel like And most people are, or I feel like they're going to say like, what do you mean you don't know what time? And so my assistant was setting stuff up for me, and I'm like, can you just check to see if there's any chance that I could do a little bit later, because I can't. I think my time slot ended up being 8:30. So it worked out for the later time, but
Does
very
it?
hectic.
Yes, I can imagine. And like it's exciting, but also it would be quite hectic because, maybe even dinner plans, like forget about your work plans, like just life plan. Yeah.
Yes, my boyfriend, my family. I mean, like, he's used to it by now, but I am like, I say like, well, so I'm booked for QVC, and I'll be like, well, let's go out to dinner. I'm like, I'll tell you what time we can go out to dinner when I call in the afternoon on Friday to see. So, and everyone at this point they know already how it is going to be.
Yeah.
But for someone who doesn't, it's very hard because I'm trying to explain all the time, like,
And then you were like, no, but just ask. You're like, no, it doesn't
yeah,
work like that. I'm telling you, I have
just find out.
to.
Yeah, just find out. It doesn't work like
Still,
that.
that
They
would
won't
that
tell
would
me.
drive me nuts. And
And I've tried.
go
I
on.
have tried to call earlier. I've I've called. I was like, let's just see if maybe they have my time slot. And
And
I
were they
call
like,
like,
no?
yeah. And they're like, Dawn, you got to call back. We don't have your time slot.
You quickly learned
All
then.
right. Very fast. So
Wow.
yeah,
And I also heard, and
interesting.
this goes back to like your drive and like your go forward, move forward attitude or mindset, that I think that you built a connection on Twitter back in the
Mhm.
day. And that's how you also got a TV spot as well. That's so crazy to hear as well.
Crazy. I couldn't believe it that platform at the time, I was using it, I was having fun with it, and lucky to be on the very beginning of it, and I was using it in that way. So for me, I did grow fast on Twitter. I would say if there was any type of, I wouldn't say like use the term going viral or anything like that,
Yep.
but I did make a nice niche for myself as a fashion expert there, not really knowing it, kind of innocently doing it. Just naturally talking about fashion and trends and posting things that I liked, and I grew this audience of people who knew me for fashion and for
Nice.
talking about fashion. And so a producer from Fox saw that and used the hashtags. I was using hashtags, and that's how they found me. And I couldn't believe it. I got the DM and I was like, wait a minute, is this real? Can I actually get, access to this industry that is a very hard industry to talk to anybody in? Can I actually get this opportunity? And I did. And that's where I started to say, okay, if I can use Twitter, I can use these platforms in that way and see it from a very early on standpoint that you can have these opportunities if you use it the right way. I think that's what's helped me now with even using Instagram or TikTok,
Mhm.
because now I'll go on, and if there's like a content, like when people are always, I tend like some younger people that I've worked with or talked to, I shouldn't even use younger, but just in general, like, I don't know how to find that. I don't know how to figure that out. And I think because of having to so many years of figure it out,
Mhm.
that it's like built in me to know how to figure things out. And like,
Ah,
go on Instagram, find the person is most likely on Instagram. They usually have a website, or they have an email, or they have a contact, or their DM. You can always do that. And most of the time I'll Google, like, I mean, I don't do it as much anymore, but I would just Google like someone, the producer of, um, a show in California that I don't know. I'll Google like who's producing this show, and the names would come up. I find the name. I go on Instagram. I type that person's name in, or I Google that person's name. Their Instagram usually comes up two or
straight.
three in
Yeah.
line. You can find their Instagram, you can go to their page, and usually they have an email, they have some type of contact. And it's like, it takes a little effort, but you can build a decent contact list just from that. And that's what I kind of learned, I think, from using apps like Twitter back many years ago
That's very
when
good
it was called
advice.
Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. I always forget that it's X. X
Yeah.
sounds so weird to say.
Yeah. I can't say
It's
it.
Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter for me. But also, it shows like part of me putting yourself out there. Not only are you creating like
Yeah.
content, which
Hmm.
a lot of people want to do the thing, but they don't even put their content out there. You've put out content, and then you've gone a step further, and you've actually like contacted people, and that's how you get yourself
Yeah.
seen.
Because, you could be the
Yeah,
world's
absolutely.
greatest director or whatever, but if no one sees your work, if no one sees your work, then yeah.
And now you really, there's so much saturation that I say it now. I'm like, to brands that I know, like smaller brands that are trying to figure out how to get the exposure. I'm like, you can't post enough. Like you feel like you're posting, oh, but I posted today or I did that today. Like two people saw that. You can post three more times. And I mean, I still have to challenge myself to do that, but you can post a few times and you'll still not, no one will think you're like a crazy posting. Oh my God, you're so annoying. And if someone does, if you have like that one person that's like, oh, you post too much, that's one person. Because
Yeah.
most of the time, not many people are seeing you, and it's okay to post and be all over different platforms and try everything. I think my thing is like, put it out there, see what happens.
I agree. And one of my friends, I don't play into the numbers game, maybe because I don't have many numbers on social media,
I
but
don't. Yeah.
but it's about like what you do with your audience. But he probably has a few million across platforms. And
Mm,
I don't know if he still does it now, but he was just like, no, I'd post like 3 times a day. And exactly to
yeah.
what you're saying goes, different people will see, not everyone will see it. And if they get a bit annoyed by it, then they can always unfollow you and they're probably not for you.
Right.
It's not like
Exactly. They won't.
the extra post is not taking over their like 40 minutes of scrolling with like,
No.
oh, I've seen
Right.
another post. You're not that, like, no
Again.
one's that big of a deal to take over the internet. So it's great
Yeah.
advice.
Exactly.
Last thing that I want to say about the TV experience, and then we'll do a rapid fire segment.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a quote, and it's not quite, it applies to what we're saying, but sometimes you pitch 100, this is your quote. Sometimes you pitch hundreds of segments and none get picked up, but then you get the
Mm.
one that does, and it's so rewarding. And that goes back to what you're saying, where you would have pitched 100 times, and yeah, okay, you tell me what springs to mind.
It no, it's the best feeling, and I had to learn that myself because it sort of goes back to what I was saying about emailing or talking to people. I felt like I was annoying, and I'm like, how many times am I going to pitch this person? How many times am I going to reach out to this person? I didn't hear a response. Nobody said anything. But if you don't even put yourself in front of them, they won't know you exist. So you
Yeah.
have to put yourself in front of people. You have to make that effort, and you can't get discouraged by, all the time it takes to send 50 DMs to someone. And someone is going to say someone's going to reach out and be like, yes. Or if they don't, it'll encourage you to do more. Don't ever stop. Don't let it discourage you. And don't make yourself say like, well, I didn't hear back from any of them, so it must not work. No one is interested and I'm just going to give up. Don't, because you may get to that 101 and that's the one that comes in. And it's happened for me with almost everything that I've done. Almost every single thing that I've done.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Even like when I'm sending emails for guests, for example, I'm not getting 100% success rate or my screenplays. There's no chance. And, a lot of the times there's just no response, but sometimes it's just not for you, or you need to tweak
Right.
something in the email, and that's okay.
Right. Or sometimes I feel like, and I've noticed this even for myself, maybe they saw the email, they got distracted, and they just didn't get a chance to get back to it. The email fell deep down into their
That
emails
happens
and
a
they just
lot.
needed a
Yeah.
reminder. I know
Yeah.
for me it happens. Like I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you emailed me, messaged me again, because I didn't mean to not get back to you. I really did want to get back to you and do your podcast or go on. I don't want to miss these opportunities, but sometimes that person needs a reminder because it just got lost, not because they didn't want to.
I agree. I need that as well. So no one get
Yeah.
offended if I'm not responding.
Yeah,
It's because I probably
exactly.
forgot it. And
Right.
with that as well, last thing, and we'll do a rapid fire segment.
Okay.
But I'd love to know the mindset here. I think you had a segment that you put a lot of time and effort in, and it didn't get aired. Tell me about.
I,
Yeah,
I had
okay.
I'm not sure. There's a couple. So,
Uh,
um, I did a segment. It was so good. It was for E News, E Entertainment Television, gigantic show, national show. I was so excited. Had models. I had everybody ready to go. This was going to be a massive opportunity to get featured on this, to be aired on this channel. It was like huge. And show up. We filmed the segment, and it was when this is going to show how long ago, when Whitney Houston passed away, and everything stopped. There was, they weren't going to air a fun fashion segment when now they had like this news that they had to share throughout the day and night. And so at first they said, well, we're going to air your segment in a few days. And I'm like, okay, well, good. At least I'll still get all the work I did. New York, I had to get models, situated. We had to go on location. All the brands were looking forward to seeing their stuff on the show.
Oh, it's not just you, it's the models, it's the brands, it's everyone involved.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So, and people understand, but it's still heartbreaking when you have this. And yeah, you have to roll with it and say, oh, well, I guess, that's going to happen. And it's happened a few times. It happened a couple times with different shows, not even for that drastic of a thing. Sometimes I film something and they're like, something else came up that they wanted to do instead of that. And it didn't, and the timing of the show didn't really make sense. So like, maybe we were talking about, Black Friday something, and then Black Friday was passing, and then once we recorded it, that was over and we couldn't talk about it anymore. So yeah.
Brutal. And how do you recover from that?
I mean, I had no choice. I had to it was hard and disappointing, especially when you share it on social media and you're like, well, I'm not going to be on.
Yeah, because you've let people as well. Yeah.
Make sure you watch. And then, where were you? Why are you not on? Why don't we see you?
So do you post now once it's on? Has that been a change?
So I do. No, I'll give like a little heads up, like, oh, if you want to watch, I'll be on, live at 8 a.m. or whatever. I do that still. Nice. And there's still been times when like the time changed or something happened, but now I'm just kind of more used to it, so it doesn't really affect me the same way. But very devastated the first time that happened. Like,
was it just I can imagine. Was it just experience and doing more of it, or?
Yeah, I think you just have to. I mean, it's hard, even though it's so not personal, especially in that circumstance. It felt personal. Like it still felt like, well, why couldn't you air it 2 days later? Or why couldn't you, did I just not do a good enough job? Was it not good enough that you had this thing happen and now you're like, well, we just don't even want to use it. Like it felt like that. And I didn't hear from them. I didn't record anything. I didn't get another segment with them for probably 2 years. So it really felt like, well, they just didn't like me. It wasn't a case of something tragic happening. And that's why they probably just didn't like me. Until I got another segment and I was like, okay, well, at least I'm coming back around.
At least now they do like you.
Yeah, but, it's hard. It's definitely hard.
Life growth and lessons.
Yeah.
I reckon what we'll do now is to wrap up the podcast and do a rapid fire segment. So the first thing that springs to mind, but you can please take your time. I'm not going to comment on them because I derail them, and I'm sure all the answers will be great.
I'll tell you, what's funny about me with these type of questions is sometimes I'm so indecisive that I'm like,
yeah, I'm the same.
It'll be interesting.
I'm excited. This is from my wife. She made sure I had to ask this question. Are skinny jeans back in fashion?
Okay, so I'm gonna say no.
She threw them all out, so it's fine.
Okay, good. But I will say, if you feel like you want to wear skinny jeans, just go for a straight leg, because a straight leg will always be classic and it still gives you the feel of a skinny.
She will love that answer. Do you feel the pressure to dress or be a certain way?
Yes, 100%. I'll tell you, this week I was dealing with this headache that came on, and I wasn't posting. I didn't post, and I post pretty consistently on social media, and I post my outfits every day, outfits with links with what I'm wearing. I was like, I couldn't. It's hard for me to even be in sweatpants at home by myself. That's how much I feel committed to who I am as a person and how much like fashion makes up who I am. So I definitely will say I am very big on hair, makeup, clothes, everything all the time.
Cool. And what happens when you wear sweatpants? Is it like, in a small closet, like,
I'm a different person. I change so fast. So I do love to work out. And so I do wear workout clothes, and actually I've gotten better. I will say I'm better with staying in them a little bit longer, but I always feel like I'm not being like me if I stay in them. Like so many people say to me, like, just be casual, just put sweatpants on, don't worry. And I'm like, I'll have to put jeans with like a cute, sweatshirt that looks like a style
Yep.
versus having sweatpants on.
And I've seen that you've made a bit of a transition with food over the years or more recently. Can you tell me about that and why?
I have. Um, Over the years, I realized how much, what you put in your body matters overall. And so I became very conscious on like what my diet is and how I eat and the things that really matter to me. And, it's going to create it's overall like, so people talk about like anti-aging and doing all these things. And my thing is always like, well, if you're not eating right, you're not sleeping, you're not drinking water, you're not working out, you're not meditating, you're not doing all these things. How can you expect yourself to look, younger or feel vibrant? Like you got to you got to put the work in. So your diet matters. What you're putting in your body is going to show everywhere.
I think you would like a guy named Paul Chek. He has like Pillars for Health, and
Oh,
he
really?
pretty much named all of them.
Oh,
Like
funny.
the essential,
I'll
like
check them out.
you have like a pyramid base. You can take all
Yeah.
like the anti-aging cream and stuff, but if you're not, as you said, not looking at the bare minimum requirements, it's a band-aid effect. It's
Yeah, I get the question. I get the question so much. Like, oh, what face cream do you use? What do you do? What is this? And like all the time. And I'll say what I do, and my routine is pretty basic, especially being in the industry. And I'm like, honestly, I think you have to feel good. You can't let all these. You got to look at what you're putting in your body. I mean,
mm,
I'm grocery shopping and I'm reading every single label to the
same.
detail. I'm scanning it on the Yuka app to see if the app is fantastic. You scan it and it tells you everything ingredient, what it does, what it doesn't do, and breaks it all down for you. It tells you if it's excellent or bad. It's fantastic. So I'm grocery shopping and I'm doing that.
I have my mum. She's a homeopath, naturopath. She's like studied
Ah,
bloods and she's
yes.
learning Ayurvedic medicine. So we're like, don't have that, or that code is that. And now my wife's now on it. Michael, you can't have that. It's got this in it. I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot it. I know
Yeah.
there's so much crap in our
No, it's
food, but
great though. It's I mean, in the US it's gotten to another level, so
I
you have to
think we're
really be
very
careful.
similar as well.
Really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
most of the audience is American and then also
uh,
Australian, so they'll resonate as
yeah,
well.
don't know.
I know you can talk about this for ages, but I believe you're a Reiki master. How has Reiki
I
helped
am.
you and why did you get into it?
Reiki has helped me immensely in so many ways, along with the people around me and people I don't even know. I got into it for my own health reasons and issues that I had going on, especially for anxiety. I've always kind of been this like growing up, always had like random anxiety, not even like, so I can go on TV and be perfectly fine. Like that I have no nervousness. I go on and I'm like ready to go. I can talk in front of a huge audience and be fine. Like the stuff that you would think would give you anxiety, but just something simple as like someone saying, "Let's go out to dinner," and then getting stuck in traffic to get there, the worst anxiety. I could have an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
So I've struggled with that a lot in my life. And I think that's why Reiki became so part of it. Cause I felt like I can do that. I can, work on myself for the anxiety before that. I've used it for feeling sick. I've used it for family feeling. My dad doesn't ever get sick. And one time he got sick and I did it. And I'm not, I say this to people and they think I'm making it up. My dad rarely he takes care of his body. But he got a cold and he was laying down. I'm like, what's wrong? Because I'm not used to seeing him sick. And I said, can I do Reiki to you? And I actually used some crystals with the Reiki and I did this Reiki to him. My sister watched me do it. And I never really had somebody watch me do it. And I said, as soon as I finished, I said, I felt sludge. I felt this like sludge feeling come out of his body. I moved it down his body and I felt it come out. And my sister said she felt like she saw it, not in right,
Yeah.
not actual
You
sludge,
can
but
like
she felt
feel
like
it.
she saw me moving something. And when I tell you, in about an hour and a half later, my dad got up out of bed, walking around, came into the kitchen, and was like, he had a little congestion. He's like, I can't believe it. I feel so much better. We ended up going shopping later in the day, and it's a story that you're kind of like, really, and you tell people, and they're like, really, but I think it works. I think it works. I mean,
Oh, you've cut
Did I
out.
lose you?
Yep.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, so it's sort of like something that as much as it's something like very, I don't know if the word spiritual, but something spiritual I believe in and I've seen it work. And I
Same.
struggle sometimes I don't feel good and I do it and I'm like, it's not working, but I know it is. Like you have to do it and believe it. And it does.
I
It
agree.
works.
I used to think all of this was the biggest load of rubbish, and then I've had so many experiences. I'm like, but that doesn't make sense. The
Yeah,
textbook, no one, and then you like, that sludge example that I've had a few
right.
examples like that, and you actually physically see it, and you're like, huh, there is
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
more to it. It's something that the only, like a lot of people might be like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like once you experience it and you have that like light bulb moment, it's like leaving the matrix and your life completely changes.
That's the
And
perfect explanation because it really is.
yeah.
You're a different person completely.
I agree, and I love it as well. Last two questions. What inspired you to write your book, 101 Glam Girl Ways to an Ultra Chic
Yes.
lifestyle?
I wrote that so long ago. So that was when I had my boutique and this is funny. I wanted something that was like a kid's book for adults for like easy tips, like really cutesy, hand drawn pictures, like a picture book for adults that just gave them these basic tips. And now, I mean, if you look at the book, the tips are like drink water, from simple things like we were talking about down to
Wow.
like put a pair of diamond studs in to just elevate your look in an instant. Put a belt on and it'll change your look for the day. Little tips that were really, really basic tips just to elevate your style, elevate your look, but in a very fun, simple way that made you feel a little bit more glamorous.
I love that. And it's,
It's fun.
it's like a basic, well, not basic, but like a
No, it
how-to
is. Yeah.
guide. And then, yeah, and it's just something
Yeah,
you can look up and go, oh, okay. Yeah,
totally.
awesome.
Yeah.
Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
One question you should have asked me. Wow. Maybe. See, I don't even know if I could answer this question. So if you had asked me this question, you would have still stumped me, but it would be like, what are you doing next?
Oh,
Like, what's your
and
next move?
what's your next move? Or do you have like a higher vision for what you want to do?
And I'll tell you, that would be a hard question for me to answer. So I'm challenging myself here. But I'm really looking to figure out a way, just because it's funny that we're talking about the Reiki and fashion and the whole industry. I love the industry and I love the authenticity. And I'm trying to find a way to bring those two together and show that, yes, you can be this very fashionable person who cares about trends and who cares about that stuff, but you can also care about your body and taking care of yourself and do these other elevated things to make your world better all around. And no matter what, living your life in the most, like with so much gratitude. Like, how can I show that? How can I show that the gratitude, I think, and sometimes I have to remind myself of it, is like the most important thing. Because if you have that, if you're grateful for everything that you have in your life and that's around you, and I'm grateful for the really hard times. I've gone through plenty of struggles, like in my personal life, in my work life, and I still look back and say I needed those things to happen because it made me who I am today.
You are the
So,
reason we do this podcast. I love
uh,
that. That is
thank you.
brilliant. And before we go, I also know you've got like 1,000 other businesses as well. And I'll put all the links as well, and it'll be
Yeah,
in the
no problem.
bio as well. How can people follow you and keep up to date with you and all of that cool stuff?
So it's really easy. I have all my handles are at Dawn Del Russo, my name, DAWNDELRUSSO, across the board. So you can find me on Instagram at Dawn Del Russo, YouTube at Dawn Del Russo, TikTok, Twitter, X. What other platforms? All the major ones. I'm the same across the board, so it's pretty easy.
And you've got a
And then
few
my
business
website.
and your website.
My website is dawndelrusso.com for my media and work side. And my Bella Dawn website is more, I guess I'd say, for brands to find me and producers to find me.
Cool. Those will all be in the episode notes below. Thank you so much. I love your integrity, your authenticity, and your forward-moving mindset. This has been a real blast. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael, so much. This has been amazing. I loved every minute of it. I can't wait to share it.
I love the advice Dawn's father gave to her. It's okay, you can quit or leave or not do something, but if it's not going to make you happy, then think about it, because sometimes the struggle is part of it. This resonates strongly with me because in life we can all have periods where we experience lows or challenges, but sometimes the struggle is what deepens our resolve and makes us realize things we never saw before. In fact, if it's meant to be for us, it can even strengthen our love for our craft and also develop resilience. Dawn explains how the challenges have been pivotal for not only her career, but also making her a stronger, well-rounded human. I also love how Dawn came to the realization that embracing authenticity would ultimately get her to reach greater heights rather than by emulating someone else. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Brené Brown.
Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.